Hi, my name's Maria Brosnan. I'm an educational leadership, health and wellbeing specialist, and I mostly work with head teachers because I believe that helping them manage their stress will have a ripple effect across their staff and students in their school. I came across heartmath about 6 years ago, and I was absolutely fascinated. I fell in love with the technology and seeing what happens in our heart and our body and our physiology when we're stressed and when we're feeling well. So a mutual friend introduced me to Mark from Run Grateful, and I was more than happy to be involved and see if we can test some of these ideas and see what happens in the body when we're more active and when we're feeling grateful.
Hi, my name is Nadine, and I'm a clinical pharmacist and experienced medical advisor. I had several challenges personally and professionally that had me led to think about how am I going to be able to overcome these mental obstacles and challenges in my life. I started out with physical activity, or let's say running, just any random app I found on my mobile, and I just started walking out there 1 mile, 2 miles, feeling that difference, feeling that every time I go out, just asking myself why, what happened, what should I reflect on, until I met Mark, just to get introduced to this gratefulness act and movement and incorporate that into my physical activity in life, which made it more meaningless, and I was able to see more through the blessings that were disguised to me, and I felt that there is a meaning for life to live for.
Okay, so here we are in a sunny Cranley. Super excited about today and creating this bit of content for everybody as we dive a bit deeper into some of the science around gratitude and movement. As we know at Run Grateful, we are big promoters of the power of the Grateful Mile and everything that brings, implementing it into your runs and walks, however way you want to have that experience. So we thought we'd take this opportunity to come down, dive a bit deeper into heartmath in particular, because we thought it was a great way of proving some of the science around gratitude and movement. Get Nadine involved. She's an amazing lady, big believer in Run Grateful. So we'll see what today brings. I'm curious myself. It's nothing I've ever done before in this way. So yeah, we're going to dive right in and see where it takes us.
Nadine, the first thing I want to explain to you is a bit of the understanding around heartmath, so we can have a look at your heart and what's happening now, and then hopefully when you've had a chance to do some gratitude practices and move your body, then we can check again and see if it's made any difference. But I want to just explain briefly what we're looking at so you have a clear idea of what we're going to do. So the three things we look at when we look at heart health, the first thing is your resting heart rate. Okay. So we would expect that, you can see here on the side, that's in beats per minute, so 60, 70, 80. So we would expect that to be between 60 and 80 beats per minute when you're resting. Mm-hmm. If you're really fit, it might be a bit lower than that. If you're really stressed, it might be a bit higher than that, but we're looking for that.
I might be stressed, but
we'll see. We'll find out. The second thing we're looking at is something known as heart rate variability.
All right. And
that's the beat to beat difference in your heart.
Okay.
So most people think that our hearts beat like a metronome, but they don't. They're always speeding up and slowing down. And here's a little thing for people to do. If you're watching this, you can check your heart rate variability right now. So just, if you want to join, we can just take your pulse. And it's important that you do it with your fingers on your wrist rather than checking your smartphone.
My smartphone, all right.
Yeah, so do it. And so if you can find your pulse, 2 fingers on your...
Over how many seconds?
Just, it doesn't really matter. But what I want you to notice is as you breathe in, just slow your breathing down a little bit. And as you breathe out through your nose, so breathing in and out through your nose. Do you notice a difference in, what are you noticing?
I just felt like quite calmer.
Okay, so let's focus on the speed. Okay. So as you're breathing in and as you're breathing out.
Yeah, it was, at the beginning it was more intense and much more higher, the rate. Yeah. But now it got slower when I felt relaxed and exhaled.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. So as you breathe in, your heart rate naturally speeds up.
Speeds up.
And as you breathe out, it naturally slows down.
Slows down. Okay.
And so the third thing we look at, so that's known as your heart rate variability, and that's the most accurate predictor of the health of your heart. So we're looking for a lot of difference in those beats. The third thing we're looking at is the pattern that creates, and that's known as your cardiac coherence. So you can see here on this pattern, it's really smooth, right? As you breathe in, the heart rate speeds up, and as you breathe out, the heart rate slows down. So you can see it's a really smooth pattern.
All right.
And I'll show you something, I'll show you another one just for contrast, and you can see how much more chaotic that is and how, right? But then we can achieve coherence really quickly. So would you like to have a go?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do you have any earrings on?
I do.
Yeah, so if you take your earrings off and then just clip this to your earlobe.
To my earlobe? Why is that?
Because there's a pulse in your earlobe.
Ah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, I did not know
Yeah,
that.
just one ear is fine. Just one ear.
Just one ear. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'll just put it here?
Yep.
On my earlobe?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
So just while we're setting up here, so if you don't talk, well, I'll explain what we're looking at. But for now, just look into the distance, maybe just look at the cupboard door or something, just look somewhere neutral as we get a bit of a reading. And I know you've had a very early start, you've had a long journey today to get here, so we wouldn't expect to be seeing anything particularly coherent as we're starting, but let's just see what comes up. So what we're seeing here is, as I'd expect, quite a low heart rate because you are very active and you're very fit. So your heart rate is a bit lower than that band that we talked about before. So that's understandable. So what I'd like you to do now is just think of something that you're grateful for. And you've got a beautiful bracelet that reminds you this grateful.
Absolutely grateful.
And just call to mind some things that you feel grateful for. And keeping your eyes open, and what I'd like you to do is follow along with this breath pacer, so breathing in. Okay. So take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Keep your eyes open and keep focused, because this is not about relaxing, this is about getting coherent. So it's about aligning both branches of our nervous system, so it's not about relaxing. That's a really important point to make. So it's calm alertness. So just following along here, so breathing in and breathing out, and already we can see a big difference, right? We can see that your heart rate is speeding up a little bit into a healthy range, still absolutely healthy. So just following along here, so breathing out and breathing in. Really nice deep breath down into your abdomen. Keeping your eyes open, I want you to really stay with this and stay with the feeling that you're bringing some balance into your body. Okay. Yeah? And keep breathing in and out through your nose. Lots of instructions. Can you see how much that pattern's changing? Yeah? When we change our emotional state by gratitude, we literally change the hormonal balance in our body. Right? And we can see that happening right now. Changes our heart rhythm, changes our heart rate, and it changes the hormonal balance in our body. Yeah. Beautiful. Let's stop that session. How are you feeling now?
I feel more calm than when I started.
Yeah.
Just following my breath pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made a difference.
Yeah.
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 I felt it. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So this, just looking back over your session here, we can see where you started. Your heart rate was quite high, but then very quickly dropped down to about 44 beats per minute. Very low heart rate variability. You can see just a little tiny breath in, a little breath out. And then it started to rise a little bit. But then once you started to focus on your breath and you started to focus on gratitude, right? Can you see what happened? You know, your heart rate increased, your heart rate variability increased, really surprisingly. But your coherence increased a lot as well.
That's when you asked me to focus on something that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about my family and my family support.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
Yeah. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's impressive. Love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the thing to really draw on is that you felt better.
I did. Yeah. Because if you look at the chart here, I was super stressed. It was 70.
Yeah.
And then when I started scattering around, and when you told me focus and think of something grateful, I felt better.
Yeah.
Love it.
Powerful, isn't it?
That's really powerful to see in graph. You always hear about it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Love
Beautiful.
it. Yes, thank you.
The two things that have the biggest impact positively on your heart rate variability are exercise and mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
So we're going to do some exercise in a moment. Okay. But mindfulness, the gratitude practice that you're doing and that we're really encouraging people to do through Run Grateful, really has an impact, especially over time. Right, so I wouldn't have actually expected to see such a big improvement in one session within like 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Right, that's something that we would expect over time.
Yes.
So those two things, exercise and mindfulness, make the biggest positive impact on heart rate variability. And the thing that makes the biggest negative impact is stress.
Stress, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
our worst enemy. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. It's wear and tear on the body and it has a massive impact on the heart. I think one of the most beautiful things of being outdoors is just how grounding it is, literally grounding, just to be out in nature, especially on a gorgeous day. It is February, but it's beautiful.
The thing is, I realized by doing my workouts, let's say outdoors, whatever you're doing, you're walking, you're running, or you're cycling, you can only appreciate the nature while you're doing that. You can also see the small things that you cannot be seen while you're in the car. You know, like every new plant, every new tree makes a difference. And that's, I think that it allows you to reflect more and see the beauty of life and even the silence. It has a taste.
And do you notice when you're doing that it changes the way you feel?
Absolutely. The thing is, people, unfortunately, with their lives, the stress that everyone's going through, that time is not even allowing us to really reflect on what's going on that day. It's just that they dissociate gratefulness, or let's say practicing that gratitude, from what they're doing. It could be a simple walk and reflecting on that and be grateful for that. It could be your simple 30 minutes run and apply that. And that's something I personally didn't feel it until I just started to practice that and realize that. And it felt, I felt more happier, you know?
Well, I think that often, and I come to this park a lot, it's right near my house and it's quite a new park, and I find especially if I've been in front of the screen all day and I come out, without even setting an intention, I just feel like, oh my God, look at this beautiful, I can just see the leaves, I can see the sunshine, I can see the birds, and gratitude just naturally happens. But what I really love about Run Grateful is the idea of being intentional about that and saying, okay, now while I do this, you know, this exercise that I'm going to do each day, then bringing that gratitude to it and combining those two things is so powerful, isn't it?
As you said, the act of running, jogging or walking, it generally allows you to detach yourself from anything. I mean, detach yourself from phones, distracting items. That is where you need to fulfill that gap by reflecting on stuff, reflecting on just one thing a day, just to say, well, I'm blessed, or I'm happy, or I feel grateful to have a supporting friend, a supporting neighbor. I had a good breakfast today. It's something that I'm in this world, in this chaos we're living. Millions are dreaming to have what you had, for example, on your breakfast, let's say. So it could be that simple thing that, as you said, it could be really reflected on your heart, on your self-well-being. You can, like, it's these minimal changes that it cannot be seen, but it can be felt. It makes much difference. And you know what? One of the things when I started this whole act of running, I started out because I had quite problems in my profession, career, and you know, when you lose self-confidence in yourself, you lose who you are, you don't know where you're going. I started running, but during my run, when I got introduced to the Run Grateful movement, that was in the COVID, where everyone was like, job layoffs.
Yeah.
Everyone's distracted. No one's knowing what's going on with the world. So since then, I applied that act. Like, let's try to focus on the goods that we have. You know what? I just felt more confident.
Yeah.
I have more. I can feel like I can achieve more. I believe in myself more. And I was reading the other day, there were really multiple studies actually evidence that the association between the practice of gratitude and increase of self-confidence.
Yeah.
So it didn't come by chance. I think that is scientifically evidence-based, and that's the glory of the whole thing, and increasing self-awareness of people and that their mindful acts in general. Yes.
Yeah. And I hope you can see too, by looking at the physiological changes that happen in your body when you're grateful and when you're focusing on your breathing or on your physiology. So that could be when you're walking or running.
Right.
But the combination of those things, once you know that, you can't not know it. So you don't need to hook yourself up to a device to know that what you're doing is really good for your body. And I hope that's helpful, especially for people that might be watching this that find it hard to find gratitude. Sometimes if you've had a really difficult day, or if you're going through a difficult time in your life, like you were describing, you lost your job, and it can be so destabilizing just to know that doing these things, some exercise, some mindful gratitude practice, has a physiological shift in your body, and the ripple effect of that goes out through your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, and just settles the whole thing down.
So thanks so much for today. Really, really grateful. Excuse the pun. That seems to be a theme for today, doesn't it? And we're out walking as well. But I haven't got you running. Not yet anyway. So, as we've explored today, and when I've initially reached out to you, the power of gratitude and movement, whether you walk or run, whether you do a mile or 2 or 10, just to dive into what you're an expert at, is important, because people need to see evidence, and we've it's been brought up in conversation today around, we can have this sense, we can have this feeling, and it brings us a certain feeling around knowing that it works. But I suppose there's that evidence that we need to see, and for me, the strongest evidence is the heart, really, because it's a powerful organ in our body, so anyway, thanks so much for it. Is it today how you anticipated it to be? Is it was there any expectation coming into today, hearing about Run Grateful and what we represented? And tell me some of what you thought prior and what you're thinking now.
Well, I was really trying to manage expectations. I didn't know what we would see in one day, because in a realistic world, it takes a little bit of time for these things to change. So I was really happy to see such a big change, not only in Nadine's physiology, but how she felt. Because she'd been speaking to me earlier, and she said to camera she'd been feeling sad, she'd been feeling stressed, but to really shift that and to see that was really a beautiful thing. So I'm grateful for that. I just hope that people watching this can get the sense of how powerful these things are, because our minds can tell us that they're not. Our minds can say, oh, what's the point? I'm feeling like, I'm not feeling great today. What's the point? But when we know that it's actually making a big difference to us, to our physiology, to our heart. And we think of our heart as a pump, but there's so much more to it, and you could say that's where our emotions sit in many ways. When we think of love or courage or those things, we think of the heart. So I just hope people feel encouraged to know that when they do these things, like moving their bodies, making connections, being mindful, being grateful, it makes a measurable difference in your body.
Yeah, and I suppose, when I use the word heart, this is centered around heartmath today, and you just mentioned it there. As with gratitude, as with movement or running or walking, whatever way we position that in our own way, this is a global language. Everyone's heard the word heart, everyone's heard the word gratitude. Now there's layers to it, as we all know, and we don't want to kind of create barriers where it puts people off, because if you dive deeper into the heart science, it can kind of create this noise around who's saying what, and information overload overload. And the same with gratitude as a headline. I think everyone can respect it and appreciate that it's going to bring good to our lives, but you know, in the same breath as all the heart stuff, you can dive a lot deeper into it, you know, and you can heighten the experience of it all. So yeah, I feel as a good kind of global language, using some language which everyone can kind of half identify with, heart, gratitude, running, walk. Hopefully there's enough pull there for people to follow their curiosity. Okay, what is a grateful mile? How can I introduce it into my life? You know, how can I utilise what's around me at all times? How can I tap into that frequency? How could it shift my physiology? Did I say that right? Don't ask me to spell that. You know, how can I tap into this? Because, you know, a big part of today is, yes, you know, we're in a stressed state quite a lot. Life is life and it comes at us, and every day is potentially different. A consequence of certain conversations or a certain situation can kind of heighten everything for us, and it, you know, we get lost within it. So hopefully tapping into grateful miles, we can just play our part in the world to create a space or an opportunity to, okay, where am I? What can I do? How can I do it? What's my best foot forward? You know, and so yeah, thanks very much for today and for jumping on board and supporting this, and obviously putting this bit of content out to everybody to hopefully educate them, and also sprinkle some awareness around HeartMath and all that, because there's a whole world out there which you can go and investigate around that in particular, which is accessible, a bit like the you know, what we promote. If we're lucky enough to move, that is so successful in many ways. Thank you.
You're very welcome.